Over 60? Pay attention. The very refrigerator in your home, the one you trust to keep food safe, might actually be silently harming your health every single day. Did you know that each year, as many as 48 million Americans suffer from food poisoning, and most of them are older adults? The problem often comes from one common mistake: storing everyday foods the wrong way in the fridge. As a result, not only do the flavor and nutrients get ruined, but harmful compounds can form that affect your heart, digestion, and even your memory. In today's video, I will reveal 10 types of foods that people over 60 should never put in the fridge, along with the right way to store them so you can keep the nutrition intact and avoid wasting food. And pay close attention to number 5 on the list. It will shock you, because almost every household is making this mistake. Stay with me until the end, because I will also share a simple tip to keep your heart and brain healthier after age 60. The very first food on the list is potatoes, a so-called safe staple that can actually carry a cancer risk. Potatoes are cheap, familiar, and considered safe in many families. But once stored in the fridge, that safety disappears. At cold temperatures, the starch in potatoes quickly turns into sugar. When fried or baked at high heat, this sugar combines with amino acids to form acrylamide, a compound that the International Agency for Research on Cancer has classified as a possible cancer risk. This turns what seems like a harmless food into a potential threat to your heart, nervous system, and brain. This concern has been raised since 2002, when the FDA announced that fried and baked potatoes contain high levels of acrylamide. Some fast food chains in the U.S. were even sued because their French fries exceeded safe levels. For older adults whose immune systems are more sensitive, eating mashed potatoes or fries made from chilled potatoes may quietly increase the risk of chronic illness. And it is not just about health. Potatoes that have been chilled often lose their taste. The texture becomes grainy or oddly firm, and they develop an unusually sharp sweetness. If you notice mashed potatoes or fries tasting strangely sweet, that is a sign of what scientists call cold-induced sweetening. The most common mistake is putting potatoes in a sealed plastic bag inside the fridge, which makes them sprout and rot faster. Another mistake is storing them together with onions, which makes both spoil sooner. Many people also believe the fridge helps potatoes last longer, but in fact, after only 2 weeks in cold storage, the sugar content can triple. The correct way to store them is actually very simple. Never put potatoes in the fridge. Instead, keep them in a cool, dark, and well-ventilated place, such as a basement, a pantry, or even a cardboard box. Use paper bags or open baskets instead of plastic. And avoid direct light, because light encourages sprouting and produces solanine, another toxin. When stored properly, potatoes can stay fresh for 2 to 3 months, instead of spoiling in just a couple of weeks inside the fridge. So you see, even a food that seems harmless can turn into a hidden danger simply because of refrigeration. And it is not just potatoes. Even that familiar loaf of bread you have for breakfast can become a silent enemy once it goes into the fridge. Number 2 is bread. The silent enemy of the fridge. Bread is a staple in almost every household because it is convenient, easy to eat, and easy to digest. But putting it in the fridge, hoping it will last longer, is actually a big mistake. As soon as bread is exposed to cold temperatures, the starch begins to crystallize and push water out. This process happens almost immediately, not after several days. The result is that a soft loaf quickly turns dry, hard, and crumbly. Scientists have even measured the softness of breadcrumbs and found that bread stored in the fridge goes stale 6 times faster than bread kept at room temperature. That is why, after only 2 to 3 days in the fridge, your sandwich bread is already stiff, bland, and hard to swallow. While bread left outside can stay soft for nearly a week, it is not just the texture. Bread also loses its flavor. The volatile compounds that give freshly baked bread its sweet aroma break down quickly in the cold. When you eat it, it feels more like chewing on cardboard than enjoying a fresh loaf. Many people think today's bread simply does not taste as good as it used to, when in fact, the real culprit is storing it the wrong way. Another common misconception is that keeping bread in the fridge prevents mold. In reality, once you take it out, the temperature difference causes moisture to condense on the surface, creating the perfect environment for mold to grow. Some molds even release mycotoxins, dangerous substances that can damage the liver and weaken the immune system, which is especially risky for older adults. The good news is, the solution is simple. If you plan to eat the bread within a few days, just keep it at room temperature in a bread box or a breathable paper bag. For the portion you want to save longer, the safest method is to slice it and freeze it. Whenever you need it, simply put the frozen slices straight into the toaster, and the taste is almost the same as freshly baked bread. The only thing you should avoid is thawing the bread first, because the extra moisture will make it soggy and less tasty. When you compare the two methods side by side, the difference is clear. Bread stored in the fridge goes bad quickly, loses its aroma, and loses its quality. But bread that has been frozen and toasted again keeps both its flavor and its soft texture. This small change in storage not only saves you money, but also preserves the true taste of fresh bread, while protecting your health in the long run. Clearly, one small habit is enough to strip bread of its flavor and value. But even more serious, a seasoning often praised as a superfood can completely lose its power once it is stored in the fridge. Number 3 is garlic, the so-called superfood that loses its power in the fridge. Garlic has long been considered one of the most affordable yet powerful superfoods, trusted as a natural remedy to support the heart, blood pressure, and the immune system. But storing garlic in the wrong place, especially in the refrigerator, can almost wipe out all of these benefits and even turn it into a health risk. The secret behind garlic's strength is allicin, a compound with antibacterial, antiviral, and heart protective effects. However, research at the University of California found that garlic kept in the fridge for just 10 days lost up to half of its allicin. Cold temperatures and humidity also make garlic sprout green shoots, turning it bitter, unpleasant, and signaling that nutrients inside are breaking down. Even worse, the damp environment of the fridge encourages mold growth. Some molds can release mycotoxins, dangerous toxins that damage the liver and weaken the immune system. The greatest risk comes when garlic is chopped or crushed, then stored in oil inside the fridge. This creates the perfect conditions for the bacteria Clostridium botulinum to grow, which causes botulism, a life-threatening food poisoning that can lead to paralysis or even death. The FDA has repeatedly warned about this danger, yet many families still unknowingly make this mistake. On the other hand, garlic stored properly at room temperature keeps its strong aroma and full health benefits. In contrast, refrigerated garlic often becomes soft, sticky, hard to chop, and nearly useless. Many people have experienced trying to mince refrigerated garlic only to find it clumps on the knife and cutting board, turning into a mushy mess. That is a clear sign the garlic has spoiled from the inside. The most common mistakes are leaving whole bulbs sealed in plastic bags in the fridge, or pre-chopping garlic to save time and storing it in oil. These methods do not make garlic last longer. In fact, they increase the risks, especially for older adults. The solution is very simple. Whole garlic bulbs should be stored in a cool, dry, well-ventilated place, such as a mesh basket, a colander, or a paper bag, at around 60 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 15 to 18 degrees Celsius. Keep them away from direct sunlight, because light makes garlic sprout faster. For peeled or chopped garlic, it is best to use it within a few days. If you want to preserve it, soaking in vinegar or lemon juice is safer and reduces the risk of bacteria. Storing garlic the right way not only preserves its flavor, but also ensures you get the full health benefits this spice has to offer. For people over 60, that difference can mean the line between a healthy heart and a hidden risk in your daily meals. And it is not just spices. Even one of the most beloved fruits in every household dislikes the cold and spoils quickly when kept in the fridge. Number 4 is bananas, the tropical fruit that hates the cold. Bananas are among the most popular fruits, found in almost every household because they are inexpensive, easy to digest, and rich in potassium and vitamins. People often enjoy them at breakfast, as dessert, or in smoothies. But here is a surprising truth. Putting bananas in the fridge does not extend their shelf life. In fact, it ruins both their nutrition and their natural flavor. Bananas are tropical fruits that thrive in warm environments. When temperatures drop below 55 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 13 degrees Celsius, the cell membranes become damaged. Enzymes leak out, and the fruit begins to spoil from the inside. After just one night, the peel can turn grayish-black, while the flesh becomes mushy, oddly firm, and loses its gentle sweetness. Research from the Queensland Department of Agriculture in Australia shows that bananas stored below this temperature lose up to 80% of their vitamin C in only 5 days. Important antioxidants, such as dopamine and catechin, also break down rapidly. The difference is easy to see. Bananas that ripen naturally at room temperature stay firm, with a mellow sweetness. But bananas that have been refrigerated taste bland and may even develop a strange metallic flavor. Many people wonder why their banana smoothies lack sweetness or taste harsh. The culprit is the fridge. The most common mistake is keeping whole bunches of bananas sealed in plastic bags in the fridge. This makes the stems ripen faster, while the fruit itself spoils from the cold. Another habit is putting ripe bananas into the fridge to keep their sweetness. But after only 1 or 2 days, the fruit turns soft and mushy. Storing bananas the right way is not complicated at all. They should be kept at room temperature, around 55 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 13 to 21 degrees Celsius. Hang them on a rack, or place them in a breathable basket to prevent bruising. If you want bananas to ripen faster, put them in a paper bag with apples or pears, because the ethylene gas speeds up ripening. If you want to slow the process down, separate each banana and wrap the stems with plastic wrap to reduce ethylene release. Once the bananas are ripe enough, you can peel them and store them in the freezer for smoothies or baking. In fact, frozen bananas make smoothies even creamier and tastier than fresh ones. The key point to remember is that bananas and refrigerators simply do not get along. When stored properly, you preserve not only their natural sweetness, but also their valuable anti-aging nutrients, which are especially important as we grow older. And it is not just bananas. Another common fruit in your kitchen can also lose its value from the inside out, once it is put in the fridge. Number 5 is tomatoes. Losing their goodness from the inside out, with no way to get it back. Tomatoes have long been considered one of the healthiest foods because they are rich in vitamin C, potassium, and especially lycopene, a powerful antioxidant that helps protect the heart and may lower the risk of cancer. But once you put tomatoes in the fridge, nearly all of these benefits are destroyed. The damage actually begins at the genetic level. Research from the University of Florida shows that when stored below 55 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 12 degrees Celsius, hundreds of the genes responsible for tomato flavor are completely shut off. This process cannot be reversed. Even if the tomatoes are brought back to room temperature, they never regain their original taste. The result is a watery red ball that is bland and far less nutritious. It is not only the taste that suffers, the health value also drops sharply. Studies estimate that as much as 65% of usable lycopene is lost in cold storage. That is because lycopene needs natural enzymes to be absorbed by the body, and low temperatures destroy those very enzymes. For people over 60, when the heart and brain rely heavily on antioxidant protection, this loss is significant. Under a microscope, you can actually see the ice crystals formed during refrigeration puncturing the cell membranes. This leaves the flesh mushy, mealy, and dry. If you have ever made a salad and noticed the tomatoes were rubbery, lacking sweetness, that is the unmistakable sign of cold damage. Another common mistake is sealing tomatoes in plastic bags and placing them in the fridge. In reality, the closed environment traps ethylene gas released by the tomatoes, which makes the whole batch spoil faster. Just one rotten tomato can ruin the entire bag within 24 hours. The right way to store tomatoes is at room temperature, ideally between 55 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 13 to 21 degrees Celsius. Place them stem side down to prevent moisture and bacteria from entering. Keep them in indirect light to preserve nutrients. If you have too many ripe tomatoes, cook them into a sauce and freeze it. In fact, cooked tomatoes are even richer in lycopene than fresh ones, and freezing helps lock in this valuable nutrient. The difference is striking. Tomatoes ripened at room temperature are sweet, juicy, and full of lycopene and vitamin C. Refrigerated tomatoes, on the other hand, are mushy, mealy, bland, and far less nutritious. The key takeaway is that the fridge is no place for tomatoes. Storing them properly not only saves money and keeps their natural flavor, but also preserves all their health benefits. This is especially important for anyone who wants to protect heart health, support memory, and slow down aging after 60. And just like tomatoes, another root vegetable used in almost every meal suffers the same fate when placed in the fridge. Number 6 is onions, the odor maker and a hidden toxin risk in the fridge. Onions are a familiar ingredient in countless dishes, from salads and soups to stir-fries. Yet one of the most common mistakes is storing onions in the refrigerator. It sounds reasonable, but in reality, this is the fastest way to make them spoil and even produce dangerous toxins. Under ideal conditions, onions need only about 65% humidity to stay firm and flavorful. But in the fridge, humidity often reaches 95%, which is far too high and creates the perfect environment for mold. Some of these molds can produce aflatoxins, toxins that the World Health Organization classifies as strong cancer-causing agents. That is why onions left too long in the fridge often develop black mold or rot. Cold temperatures also change the onion's composition. Starch quickly converts into sugar. Research from the University of Texas shows that after just 2 weeks in the fridge, sugar content can increase by as much as 270%. The result is distorted flavor. Onion soup turns unusually sweet, and when stir-fried, onions cannot caramelize properly because ice crystals have already damaged their cell structure. Those golden, sweet, fragrant onion slices you enjoy at restaurants will never come from onions that have been refrigerated. Another issue is the strong onion smell. In the fridge, onions release sulfur compounds that break down quickly and spread to other foods. Many people have opened the fridge to find that butter, apples, or even pastries smell like onions. And no, it is not your imagination. A common mistake is sealing whole onions in plastic bags and placing them in the fridge, when in fact, onions need to breathe. Storing them near potatoes is another error, since both spoil twice as fast together. As for cut onions, many people think wrapping them in plastic is safe. In reality, the exposed surface is an open door for bacteria, and even in the fridge, cut onions should only be used within 1 to 2 days. The correct way to store onions is very simple. Whole bulbs should be kept in a dry, well-ventilated place at about 45 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit, or 7 to 13 degrees Celsius. You can store them in baskets, mesh bags, or even clean stockings, as long as there is enough airflow. Keep them out of direct sunlight because light triggers sprouting, and never store them near potatoes. For cut onions, the safest method is to put them in an airtight container and use them within 1 to 2 days. Or better yet, cook them immediately. The difference is obvious. Properly stored onions keep their signature flavor and caramelize beautifully when cooked, turning sweet and fragrant. Refrigerated onions, on the other hand, turn mushy, spread their odor to other foods, lose nutrients, and sometimes even produce toxins. Clearly, the fridge is no place for onions. By changing just one small habit, you can keep their original taste, prevent toxins, and protect your long-term health. And onions are not the only ones. Surprisingly, even the so-called immortal food that has been praised for thousands of years can lose its purity once it is stored in the fridge. Number 7 is honey. Sweet and pure, but it easily loses its value in the fridge. Honey has long been called the immortal food, one of the very few foods that almost never spoils. In fact, archaeologists have even found honey in Egyptian tombs more than 3,000 years old that was still edible. The secret lies in its unique structure. Honey has very low moisture, high acidity, and natural antibacterial enzymes, creating an environment where bacteria and mold simply cannot survive. But many people unintentionally ruin these precious qualities with one seemingly harmless habit. They put honey in the refrigerator. When exposed to cold, honey quickly crystallizes. It goes from a smooth liquid to a hard, grainy solid that is difficult to scoop or spread. At first, this is only a physical change. The real problem begins when the jar is opened frequently. The crystals create tiny gaps, allowing moisture from the fridge environment to seep in. That added moisture can make honey ferment, develop a sour taste, and open the door for microbes to grow. Research from the Indian Institute of Food Technology shows that refrigerated honey is 3 times more likely to ferment compared to honey kept at room temperature. This process destroys its aroma, breaks down antibacterial enzymes, and reduces its healing properties. For older adults, who often use honey to support digestion, boost immunity, and soothe sore throats, this is a real loss. You can easily spot the difference. Properly stored honey stays smooth, golden, and sweetly fragrant. Refrigerated honey, however, looks cloudy, clumps into crystals, and sometimes tastes harshly sour. If you have ever tried making hot tea with honey that has been stored in the fridge, you may have noticed the flavor feels flat and loses its natural soul. Many families store honey in the fridge to avoid ants and insects. Others believe that cold temperatures will extend its shelf life. In fact, the opposite is true. Some even throw crystallized honey away, thinking it has spoiled, when in reality, crystallization is a natural and harmless process. The solution is simple. Keep honey in a glass or food-safe plastic container, tightly sealed, and store it in a cool, dry place away from direct sunlight. If honey crystallizes, just place the jar in warm water at around 100 to 110 degrees Fahrenheit, or 38 to 43 degrees Celsius, until it slowly liquefies again. Never use a microwave or boiling water because extreme heat destroys enzymes and antioxidants. The key takeaway is this: the fridge is the worst place for honey. By storing it properly, you preserve its sweet flavor, nutritional value, and natural healing power, instead of turning it into a poor quality food just because of one wrong habit. And this same mistake often repeats with another familiar drink that many of us enjoy every morning. Number 8 is coffee. The everyday drink that quickly loses its value in the fridge. For millions of Americans, coffee has long been the go-to morning beverage. It not only helps you stay alert, but studies show that moderate coffee drinking also supports heart health and brain function. Yet a common mistake is putting coffee in the fridge, hoping it will last longer. In reality, that is the fastest way to strip coffee of both its flavor and its health benefits. Coffee beans and grounds are highly absorbent. They soak up moisture and odors easily. If stored near cheese, leftovers, or onions in the fridge, within just a few days, your morning cup can carry all sorts of unpleasant smells. On top of that, every time you open the fridge, the temperature shift causes condensation on the beans. This moisture makes the natural oils solidify, disrupting the extraction process and leaving your coffee weak, flat, and harshly bitter. A study from the Specialty Coffee Association found that beans stored in the fridge lose up to 60% of their aroma in only 1 week. That means the expensive bag of coffee you just bought quickly tastes no better than cheap coffee. For older adults, who often see coffee as both a pleasure and a morning mood booster, drinking a dull, flavorless cup can set the tone for the whole day. The difference is striking. Coffee stored in an airtight container, away from light and moisture, retains its bold flavor and beneficial compounds like chlorogenic acids, antioxidants that reduce inflammation and protect blood vessels. Refrigerated coffee, on the other hand, not only loses its aroma, but can also develop mold if it absorbs too much moisture. Moldy coffee may produce toxins that harm the liver and weaken the immune system. A common mistake is buying coffee in bulk and storing it all in the fridge. Another is thinking that pre-ground coffee will keep its aroma better in cold storage. In fact, ground coffee loses flavor much faster than whole beans and absorbs even more moisture. The right way to store coffee is simple. Buy just enough for 1 to 2 weeks. As soon as you open the bag, transfer it to an opaque, airtight container. Keep it in a cool, dry place, away from light and heat. If you need to store it longer, the freezer is the better option. But coffee should only be frozen once. Divide it into small portions, enough for 1 week each, and take them out only when needed. If you freeze, thaw, and refreeze, the added moisture will completely ruin the beans. The important lesson is this: the fridge is not your friend when it comes to coffee. It is a silent enemy. By changing this one habit, you can preserve the full flavor of your morning cup while keeping all the valuable health benefits. For those over 60, this is an easy yet effective way to keep coffee both delicious and supportive of heart and brain health. Clearly, coffee stored in the fridge is no longer a pleasure. It becomes nothing more than a bitter, lifeless drink. And unfortunately, even one of the most nutrient-rich fruits can quickly lose its value when kept in the fridge. Number 9 is avocados, the superfood that loses its value in the fridge. Avocados have long been considered one of the healthiest fruits, especially for people over 60. They provide more than 20 essential nutrients, most notably oleic acid, a monounsaturated fat that is highly beneficial for the heart and brain. But storing avocados in the fridge the wrong way can destroy almost all of these benefits. Cold temperatures trigger lipid oxidation, causing the healthy fats in avocados to break down and form harmful free radicals. Research from Stanford University shows that after just 4 days in the fridge, avocados lose up to 90% of their antioxidant power, including vitamin E, vitamin C, and many polyphenols. That is enough to turn a so-called superfood into a fruit with almost no nutritional value. It is not just about lost nutrients. The texture of avocados changes completely. Normally, ripe avocado flesh is smooth, creamy, and easy to mash for sauces or guacamole. But when stored in the fridge, the enzyme polyphenol oxidase becomes overactive, breaking down the cells and turning the flesh stringy, watery, and mushy. Anyone who has tried making guacamole from refrigerated avocados knows the result. A watery, lumpy dip with an unpleasant, bitter taste. A survey from the American Nutrition Association found that nearly 60% of U.S. households routinely put bags of avocados in the fridge to eat gradually, not realizing this habit robs the fruit of its true value. The correct way to store avocados is simple. If the fruit is still unripe, keep it at room temperature, around 65 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, or 18 to 24 degrees Celsius, in an open bowl, not in a sealed plastic bag. To ripen faster, place avocados in a paper bag with bananas or apples, since ethylene gas speeds up the process. Once ripe, you may refrigerate them for no more than 2 to 3 days if necessary, but they should be eaten as soon as possible. For cut avocados, leave the pit in, brush the flesh with lemon juice, and store in an airtight container with a slice of onion. The sulfur compounds from the onion help slow oxidation and keep the avocado fresh without altering the taste. The difference between properly stored avocados and refrigerated ones is dramatic. One remains a creamy, nutrient-rich superfood that protects the heart, brain, and skin. The other turns into a mushy, bitter fruit stripped of its benefits, and potentially harmful if eaten in excess. Sadly, many people still make this simple mistake every single day. And finally, number 10 is olive oil, the good friend that turns into a betrayer when kept in the fridge. Olive oil has long been called liquid gold in the Mediterranean diet. It is rich in polyphenols, vitamin E, and healthy fatty acids that support the heart, brain, and digestive system. But just one small mistake in storage, putting olive oil in the fridge, can turn this valuable food into a silent betrayer that may do more harm than good. When chilled, olive oil solidifies. The fatty acids crystallize, making the oil cloudy and thick. At first, this may look like only a harmless physical change, but when olive oil goes through repeated cold to warm cycles, its chemical structure suffers what scientists call thermal shock. This speeds up oxidation, strips away antioxidants, and generates free radicals, the very culprits behind inflammation and cellular damage. Studies show that improperly stored olive oil loses a significant amount of polyphenols, the key anti-inflammatory compounds. Instead of protecting the heart, repeatedly refrigerated oil may actually contribute to higher risks of joint inflammation, digestive problems, and early aging, conditions older adults are especially vulnerable to. And it is not only the health benefits. The sensory qualities are ruined as well. Good olive oil should have a fruity aroma, a peppery kick, and a pleasantly bitter aftertaste. But after repeated cycles of chilling and thawing, the oil turns bland, watery, and almost tasteless. Many people say that olive oil stored in the fridge tastes no better than cheap cooking oil, thin, weak, and with almost no nutritional value. The most common mistake is keeping a bottle of olive oil right in the refrigerator door for convenience. In fact, this spot is the worst place because every time the door opens, the constant temperature swings accelerate oxidation. Within just a few weeks, a bottle of high-quality olive oil can lose much of its value. The correct way to store olive oil is very simple. Keep it in a dark glass bottle or a metal container in a cool, dry place away from sunlight and heat from the stove. The ideal temperature is around 57 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit or 14 to 21 degrees Celsius. When stored properly, extra virgin olive oil can retain its full flavor and health benefits for 18 to 24 months after pressing. For families who buy in bulk, it is best to pour smaller portions into separate bottles for daily use. This reduces exposure to air and light, keeping the rest of the oil fresh. The difference between properly stored olive oil and oil that has been in the fridge is truly like night and day. One is golden fuel for heart and brain health. The other is just a cloudy, bland liquid that may even pose health risks. So if you still keep olive oil in the fridge, it is time to change that habit for your heart and for your long-term health. These 10 familiar foods may seem safe, but they can actually turn into silent traps in your kitchen if stored the wrong way in the fridge. The result is not just wasted money, but also the loss of vital nutrients that protect your heart, support memory, and help slow down aging after 60. The good news is, by simply changing a few storage habits, you can preserve both the nutrition and the natural flavor of your food. So tell me, which item on this list surprised you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to hit like, share this video, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next one, where I will reveal inexpensive spices that can replace salt and help keep your heart stronger after 60.